Konnichiwa, Hideki desu. So today's video will be like a prequel to the videos I already did here in Japan, kind of like Star Wars, how it all began. How to find a Japanese university without a scholarship, having to pay yourself, and with little or no Japanese language ability, so you cannot follow the regular university courses. And at the end I will make some final remarks on language schools, scholarships and money. So if you do not get or maybe do not want a scholarship, you have on the other hand the advantage that you can select the university yourself. And the information you need from the university is depending on how long you want to go. So maybe you only want to go for one semester. You need to know if the university accepts only students from partner universities. Are there Japanology courses taught in English? Will you need a Japanese language program? How about the housing? Is there homestay, dormitory or apartment housing available? Is it guaranteed? Now, how do you get all this information? So since you will be entering university, I do not have to tell you how to do research on the internet, but as usual, Google is your friend, and if you just look for something like universities in Japan curriculum in English, you already find some nice pages, and I just want to point out two of them to you. One is this one, Studying English at Japanese Universities, and this one has a nice map and list of universities that are very renowned for their English-speaking Japanese studies programs too. So all these universities are worth checking out, I think. Now, a second page that I would like to recommend to you is the Study in Japan portal site, and it has a list of short-term study programs right here, and you can switch this to English, which is very handy. And under Study in Japan you find information on Japanese schools. Search for schools, and on the bottom it has a very nice comprehensive Excel sheet right here, and this takes a long time to open, so I have already downloaded it, and here it is. So this is a very comprehensive list consisting of more than 400 entries. It's really amazing, and it has some quite useful information like on the program itself, and on the application, some information on the fees, scholarships and website, and how to contact them. And the nice thing is that it is a spreadsheet, so you can easily sort what you need and get to the relevant universities quite simply, although it's a very large table. Now the next step would be to make a list of all the universities that you researched with all their plus points and minus points, so you can easily compare between them. So here's the actual list of universities that I looked up in more detail, and you can see that some universities like the University of Tokyo does not offer one semester, and neither did the University of Nagoya, for example. Kyoto University only would accept students from partner universities, and so on. And I finally came up with 5 universities that I was interested in, which was the Tokyo International University, Keio, Sophia, Ritsumeikan, and Kyushu University. Now on to the next step, which is for all the universities that you selected, make a list of all the things that they need from you for your application, and it's usually 9 or 10 things. First, pictures. How many pictures do they need from you? Second, an official transcript. This is needed by all universities. A certificate of enrollment, needed by most universities. The test of English as a foreign language if your mother language is not English. Do they need it? Again, most do. Letters of recommendations. How many do they need from you? Some need only one, other universities need 2. And one word of advice, when you selected more than one university and you ask your professor for 3, 4 or 5 letters of recommendations, do them a favor and tell them they can write it as a to whom it may concern text without mentioning the name of the university, and just print out the number you need and sign them individually. A statement of from your Japanese language instructor was needed by one university, so maybe you need this too. And you always need a motivational letter, and again, one advice would be that you list the required topics to be covered from all of the universities, and then you make a text which covers all of this, and from this text then you for each university individually you only have to embellish a little bit why you specifically want to go to this or that university. Next, financing. Some universities require something like a bank statement or a letter of pledge. And finally, a health certificate, and this is probably what was the most time consuming for me, because 2 universities required a pre-described sheet to be filled out, and it was just a hassle. Now 3 more things left for the list. For one thing, if there's anything else the university requires for the application, then if there is an application fee, and there was one for Keio, 10,000 yen, and for Sophia, 35,000 yen. And finally, and most important, the deadline. When does the application have to be at the university? So here's the actual table for the 5 universities that I had selected. Ritsumeikan, Keio, Tokyo International, Sophia, and Kyushu. And for example, pictures that were required, and so on and so on. First, on language programs at universities, and this can really be risky. There's a big difference between universities. For example, at my university it's really good. There are 9 different levels, from absolute beginner to almost perfect speakers, and within each level you can choose from different courses, and there are even 3 different intensity levels, from normal to intensive, which is twice the speed, and they even have a quadruple speed course, I think, at every level. But I know of a friend at another university, and it's a smaller university, and there's only one English language class, and he's together with Asian students, so he is hopelessly lost at kanji, but he is kind of bored at the conversation part and the grammar part. So my advice would be, if you are only interested in learning the language and not necessarily in the academic experience of studying Japanology, or to dive into the university universe, then my advice would be to consider a language school that might be less expensive and more effective. Next, a word on scholarships, although this is not the topic of this video, but the most numerous and most important ones seem to be those from your own Japanology department. But for some reason it always seems to be the best in the language class who get those scholarships, and not the ones who would actually benefit the most from them. And that is despite of such things as motivation letters and individual interviews, research plans, etc., etc. So in the long run it seems always the best in the language classes, not necessarily in the Japanology, society, history, business and so on classes, seemed to get those scholarships. Second would be the scholarships from your university with the partner university that the university has, not your department. And finally, all other kinds of scholarships in which you may or may not be able to choose the university. Just one more thing, if you are a rich kid from a rich family, or if you have a real well-paying part-time job, then please don't take away a scholarship from other students who really depend on it, just because you can. Now finally, just a few thoughts on money. For one thing, probably the Japanese public and private universities are not more expensive than their American counterparts, for example. And you will most certainly not be the first one who self-finances a semester in Japan. And if you are a economically oriented person, then why not look at it as an investment into a better paying job in the future. Also, you will have to spend money in your home country staying at home, not going to Japan. And most important, as an old Japanese teacher always used to say when we forgot homework and so on, he said, if you want, you find ways. And if you do not want, you find excuses. And I think that's exactly right. For example, in the worst case scenario, if you're an orphan, if you have absolutely no other income and you have to earn every yen yourself, and let's say you need 6,000 to 8,000 US dollars for the semester, with a cheap flight and a cheap university and frugal living, and you would get 400 US dollars a month at McDonald's, you would have to work 15 to 20 months for this one semester in Japan. So I'm convinced that anyone who wants to can go for at least one semester. So anyway, what will be the reward of all the application and financing pain? So if you're lucky, one day you will find this in your letterbox, and in it the long-awaited certificate of admission. Yeah!